For specific content warnings and the link to the written version of his story, please check the description below. This story is based on Moby-Dick or the Whale by Herman Melville, 1851. Enjoy! The smell of ale flooded the small tavern by the ocean. It served as the land home for the fishers, whalers, navy men, sailors, merchants, and yes, even pirates from all over the world. Everyone would drink and share a tale or three about their relationship with the sea. No one was an enemy here. Out on the water they may be rivals, but here, no. Here they were all friends. On one particular stormy day, a man entered the pub, known as the Spouter Inn. He arrived covered in rainwater. No one had seen him before. Was he a sailor? Was he a whaler? No one was sure, but their minds grew curious, and they just had to know his story. "I've not noticed you around these parts before," Starbuck the sailor leaned over as the mysterious man took a long sip of ale. "I came only for a brief rest before I head out again." The man smiled with his sad eyes as he placed his heavy glass back down on the counter. Starbuck studied him skeptically. "What's your name?" "Mine's Starbuck." Starbuck offered his hand, which the man was quick to shake. "My name is Ishmael Ahab, but most just call me Ahab." Starbuck released Ahab's hand with a grin. "What's your story, Ahab?" The entire room now fixed their eyes on the young fellow. "I lost something of mine, and I'm going to take it back." Ahab's grip around the tankard's handle tightened. He turned and examined the place, seeing everyone stare at him with curiosity riddling their faces. His grasp loosened. "It's nothing too interesting. Just a coin from a whale." A laugh could be heard feet away. It came from the table closest to the bar. The man at it was sitting with another young man who must have been around Ahab's age. "A whale swallowed your coin, and you think you can get it back?" The fellow roared with laughter as the rest of the occupants of the Spouter Inn joined. "Stranger things have happened, Stub," the man beside Stub laughed. "Remember just the other day that chap claimed he was looking for his puppet, and then a whale swallowed him?" Stub laughed at the response. "Come now, Flask, you can't be serious. A whale swallowing a man? I could buy that, but a whale swallowing a man's coin, and the man thinks he can get it back." Stub turned his attention to Ahab and challenged him with his eyes. "Oh, this isn't just any old coin. This doubloon was crafted from gold, created from the very hands of King Midas himself. It's told it grants anyone who owns it a wish." The crowd awed. "You're bluffing," Stub accused. "Perhaps I am, and perhaps I am not, but either way, time waits for no one, and if I don't get to this well now, I may never have another chance to. That, and the missus is waiting for me in the old tugboat." Ahab winked at the crowd, who all whooped and cheered him on as he left the tavern and re-entered the rain. The rain battered Ahab as he manoeuvred himself around all the puddles that strewed the dock. The tugboat rocked with a viciousness that screamed peril, but Ahab persisted, throwing caution to the wind, and leapt onto the boat's deck. "There you are, sir," a man yelled over the wails of the gale. "Was worrying you had become too familiar with the old tankard." He laughed as he ran Ahab into the dry. "Don't fret, Boomer." Ahab shut the cabin door behind him, allowing the whistling of the wind to abate in extremity just enough to be heard. "You know this is an important mission. Where's the missus?" Ahab asked, looking around the cramped cabin. As if on cue, a petite three-legged feline crept out from under the room's sole table. "Ah, there you are, Dee Dee." Ahab lifted the fluffy cat, who purred with enthusiasm. "All right." Ahab placed Dee Dee under his arm and turned to Captain Boomer. "Are we ready to catch a whale?" Boomer nodded his head as he scrambled away to untie the boat from the short wooden pier. Starbuck watched the tugboat haul out to sea. "I thought you didn't believe him," Stubb questioned his associate. I don't. Starbuck laughed. But if there's gold involved, I want to be there. He turned to Flask with a devilish smile. Get the harpoons. We are capturing a whale. Are you sure it was him? Ahab had his back to Captain Boomer, facing out to the angry sea. It was him. I know Moby-Dick when I see him. Ahab nodded. It's been so long since I've seen him. Part of me misses him. He turned sharply. Is that strange? Boomer smiled with a snort. That's love. Ahab rolled his eyes. Love? For whale? Don't be so absurd. Boomer shook his head with a snicker. Why so? You love your cat, don't you not? Dee Dee rubbed her head against Ahab's left leg. Of course I do, but Dee Dee is family. He reached down and ran his hand through Dee Dee's mane. I would argue that Moby is family too. You have a long history together. Boomer teased. Ahab gasped at the idea. What are you insinuating? Moby and I, why, the very thought. The man stormed over to the long blue settee before collapsing onto it. I want to see him again. Ahab gazed up at the ceiling. He haunts my dreams as if he were a shadow just out of view. Dee Dee leapt up onto Ahab's chest and curled into a ball. Do you miss him too? The cat responded with an elegant meow. Ahab laughed as he brushed her soft fur. I hope he hasn't changed too much. He closed his eyes and listened to the distant sounds of the ocean, allowing himself to drift off. The small tugboat named the Pequod entered quieter yet colder waters. We're here, Boomer shouted, stirring Ahab from his sleep. The man stretched as the early morning sun passed through the cabin's window to caress him. He spun to see nothing but water for miles. This can't be right. Ahab scratched his head. There's nothing but water. Confused, Boomer twisted his head to Ahab. Well, whales tend to live in the sea. This is where I saw him last. Boomer pointed out to the ocean as Ahab walked up next to him and looked out. He is a whale. A gasp was expelled from his throat. Of course he is. Boomer opened the cabin door, welcoming the ocean breeze in. They could see the shape of a whale distantly edging ever closer. That makes little sense. I assumed you were exaggerating. Ahab headed back inside and paced back and forth. The whale swam closer and closer until it was practically kissing the Pequod. As if noticing him for the first time, Boomer ran back inside and slammed the cabin door shut. Oh, he's a whale all right. What made you think he was? The captain inquired. Maybe Dick is a... The boat jerked to the right, knocking the two men off their feet and inducing a slight shriek from Dee Dee the cat. He's a what? Boomer pushed himself up onto his hands and knees. Knock, knock, knock. A figure stood at the cabin door. Moby-Dick is a man. Ahab turned his head to Boomer before they both stared up to the door. I see you're in there, Ahab. Moby-Dick pounded on the door. Boomer gestured for Ahab to get the door. With hesitance he did. Moby-Dick stormed through the door. What were you thinking? He demanded. Chasing me out to sea? Have you lost your senses? We're over. Boomer got to his feet. I'll leave you two to it. He smirked as he rushed himself out of the room. Ahab shuffled on his feet. You have something of mine. He averted his gaze to the ground. What? Your little coin? You know I have just as much right to it as you. Might I remind you I was the one who found the chest? His eyes burned through the man before him. No. You have my heart. Ahab glanced up with a tear threatening to escape his eye. Moby-Dick sighed and dropped his arms to his sides. He attempted to step closer before retracting his foot, unsure what to do. We're over, Ishmael. I need you to understand that. Ahab sunk his head down again. Dee Dee brushed past his leg and bounded for Moby-Dick. Whoa, whoa, steady there, girl. He laughed as the cat circled him like a shark. You can smell the sea on me, can't you? Ahab raised his chin. How did you do it? When Boomer said he met you, he told me you were a whale. I believed he was referring to your large personality. How did he even learn your name? Moby-Dick shrugged. How should I know? I only saw him the once. Boomer re-entered the cabin. Ah, why lie to him, Moby? Ahab looked over confused. What do you mean? Lying? Moby, what does he mean? Boomer settled her hand around Moby-Dick's waist. I can explain. Moby gulped and pushed himself away from Boomer. Don't. Ahab barged past and stepped out onto the deck. He set his hands on the railing and took in a deep breath of sea air. The spray of the water sprinkled his face just enough to hide the tears that were forming. The shadow of a boat sailed distantly, but Ahab didn't see it. Ahab wasn't looking. As the Rachel bobbed up and down along the waves, Stubbs kept a sharp eye on a tugboat ahead. Any sign of the creature? Starbuck yawned, heading out onto the deck. I saw it a moment ago, but it was no ordinary whale. Starbuck raised an eyebrow at Stubbs' remark. What does that mean? He inquired. The whale is a narwhal, Stubbs snorted in disbelief. A what? Starbuck stormed over to the railing. A narwhal it's a narwhal with a... Starbuck shot a stubborn glance. I know what a narwhal is. Are you certain? Stubb was swift to nod. Where is it now? Starbuck demanded. It disappeared once it arrived at Ahab's boat. Stubb shrugged. Flask, set a course. We're capturing that narwhal. Flask stood at the wheel and made a salute before completing a sharp turn, guiding the Rachel toward the quad. When the boat in the distance turned towards them, that's when Ahab noticed its presence. Not wanting to enter the room with his ex, and what he could only imagine was his new lover, Ahab froze in place. The Rachel edged ever closer, and it left the man cemented in his spot. Look, Ahab, I know this isn't ideal. Moby-Dick stepped out to see the Rachel approaching. Who was that? He rushed to Ahab's side. I don't know. Ahab shrugged, uncaring. He sidestepped away from Moby-Dick. Ahab, this could be serious. Moby reached for him, but Ahab took a deep breath and walked away. Moby sighed and dug into his pocket. His hand grabbed hold of the gold doubloon. The man climbed over the railing and clung onto the bar as the vicious ocean lapped at his feet. The Rachel was now just 20 feet away and still growing closer. Okay, Coin, do your job, Moby whispered to the wind. Ahab twisted to catch Moby let go of the rail. No! Ahab screamed, rushing to the edge of the boat. A long tusk sprung from the water, pulling behind it the head of the narwhal known as Moby-Dick. Ahab gasped in bewilderment as Moby charged for the Rachel. His tusk tore through the boat, and it tipped over. Ahab witnessed the man throw a harpoon into the back of Moby-Dick, causing the narwhal to fall into the water with an almighty splash. The men from the Rachel jumped ship and used the harpoon's rope to slide down onto Moby, making their hands blister as they slid. Moby, in great pain, swam to the quad as Ahab and now Boomer, who had left the cabin because of the sound of the commotion, watched on helplessly. Starbuck, Stubb and Flask climbed aboard the quad as they watched the Rachel sink out of view. If the coin's not worth it, at least we will have a nice hunk of ivory. Starbuck slapped Stubb on the back. Ahab and Boomer spun and faced the trio with disgust riddling on their faces. That was a man you just killed. Boomer spat rather out of character. A man? Starbuck laughed. I think you need your eyes tested. Stubb and Flask both joined in laughing. The harpoon drifted to the surface of the water, no longer attached to Moby-Dick. Confused, all 5 men ran over to the side of the boat. The body of the now human Moby floated to the surface, bleeding out into the sea foam. What on? Starbuck gasped, as Boomer without hesitation leapt into the ocean. He grabbed his lover, swam back and pulled him on board. Moby gasped like a fish, pulled onto land and spluttered up some seawater. He attempted to speak, but Boomer stopped him and instead placed his lips against his. Ahab turned away, disheartened. What in the name of Poseidon is going on? This is supposed to be the story of a whale, not a tragic, sordid romance. Starbuck spat. Dee Dee ran out from her hiding place in the cabin and attacked the sailor's trousers leg. Starbuck fled inside, followed by Stubb and Flask. He closed the door to keep Dee Dee out. Dee Dee headed over to Moby, satisfied, and nuzzled up to him. Moby smiled, appreciating the gesture. Ahab, he called over. Ahab turned and with heavy feet walked over to Moby-Dick lying helplessly on the boat's deck. "I'm sorry. I want you to have this." Moby placed a doubloon in Ahab's arm with a weak smile. His face grew paler by the second as his blood baptized the deck. Ahab felt the coin in his palm for a moment. "Why narwhal? Of all the things you could have wanted." He shook his head. Moby gave a small laugh. I didn't," he gasped. Boomer motioned for him to save his breath. He wished to feel as free as he did at sea. The wish changed him into a narwhal. Boomer looked up to Ahab. "And I did," Moby smiled. "It was ever so freeing." He coughed. Ahab uncurled his fingers and stared at the coin. "I wish we could both be free. Free of our pain." A tear rolled down his cheek as Moby's skin regained its colour, and he stopped bleeding. He sat up with a bolt and clung to Boomer as Dee Dee jumped onto his lap. "Thank you," he gestured to Ahab, with the biggest grin on his face. Ishmael Ahab turned to his former lover, with the coin still in hand, and replied with, "I'm sorry. Do we know each other?" For more stories like this, please hit subscribe. Consider following me on Wattpad, and stay tuned for more stories to come. Hit the bell button to be notified of new videos being released. Thank you for listening.